you really don't get it unless you actually have it or you live with somebody. Because I'd like to consider that I've had a lot of education. I obviously have a doctorate in pharmacy. I did 2 years of residency. So I did a year that was a general year of pharmacy residency, and I did a specialized critical care residency, and I practice in that area, and I see DKA all the time. So, I work with it a lot, and I've learned a lot from living and obviously dating Ben, which is kind of wild to think about. Because you think, even medical professionals with all of your years of experience, like, oh yeah, this, but it's different when you actually see the day to day. And I don't think you realize that until it's around you.
Welcome to the Your Diabetes Insider podcast, where we take all of the mysteries of blood sugar control, focusing on nutrition, exercise, and any of the other 40 plus factors that may impact your blood sugar. If you don't know me, my name is Ben Zeal. I'm a registered dietitian, certified diabetes educator, strength and conditioning coach, and I've lived myself with type 1 diabetes for over 20 years. And I am here to share everything that I have learned in both my personal and professional experience so you can live that incredible diabetes life. So get ready and let's dive right into today's episode. What is going on? Welcome to this episode of the Your Diabetes Insider podcast, where I have a fantastic guest, a returning guest who has not been on the show in quite some time. What's up, Amelia?
How's it going?
This would be my wife, in case you don't know. My wife. And anyways, if you don't know that reference, then you probably haven't seen the iconic movie Borat. But anyways, I figured it's kind of important to have Amelia on here because it's important to talk about relationships with diabetes. And I could talk about it on my own. I could talk about other people, but who better to have a relationship conversation with for your benefit as a person living with diabetes or someone who has a loved one with diabetes than the person that I've been with for now, holy cow, over 6 years, which is wild to think about. So she's seen the ups, she's seen the downs, she's seen a little bit of everything when it comes to diabetes life. So in case you're not familiar, introduce yourself. What do you do for a living as well? I feel like that guy that goes all over TikTok is like, hey, what do you do for a living? But tell a little about you in case someone doesn't know you.
All right. So I'm Amelia Zeal now, obviously. So I'm actually a pharmacist by day. So I primarily work in the ICU and the ER. So I deal with a lot of chronic diseases and things like that every day. And then have a lot of fun with this man right here.
So I'm very grateful for Amelia, and a story that I may have told a very long time ago, but on our first date, I was on my tandem pump and we went to a baseball game, but then we were like, let's go get some burritos at this place called Taco Bus. And it was fantastic. But with those, I pulled out my pump, and Amelia had actually been using a tandem pump when she was in pharmacy school. So explain that, please, because that's kind of a rare situation.
Oh, yeah. I had the opportunity to do a really cool rotation at an endocrine clinic. And at that clinic, they actually set us up with, I think it was the Medtronic reps, but they gave us basically the pumps and everything. Like they turned our phone into a pump. So you downloaded an app and everything. And then they helped you with tubing and all of that stuff. So you actually got to pretend bolus yourself. They gave us I think it was Freestyle Libre meters and AccuCheck. So we were able to check our blood sugars and learn how to do all of that, because that practice was primarily type 1 and type 2 diabetes patients. They did a little bit of thyroid issues, other endocrine disorders, but it was primarily diabetes run clinic. So we got to do a lot of that as well as see a lot of patients. And what was really interesting is I remember meeting Ben and I was like, oh, I deal with diabetes every day. I'm so good with this. I know it. And then it's funny because living with him now for how long have we lived together? 5+ years, something like that. I don't know. I can't remember. It's been a minute. So you really don't get it unless you actually have it or you live with somebody, because I'd like to consider that I've had a lot of education. I obviously have a doctorate in pharmacy. I did 2 years of residency. So I did a year that was a general year of pharmacy residency, and I did a specialized critical care residency, and I practice in that area, and I see DKA all the time. So, I work with it a lot, and I've learned a lot from living and obviously dating Ben, which is kind of wild to think about, because you think, even medical professionals with all of your years of experience, like, oh yeah, this, but it's different when you actually see the day to day. And I don't think you realize that until it's around you.
Well, and so obviously, relationships, right? There's always the questions of, when do you tell someone? Do you tell someone out of the gate? Does it change the entire dynamic? And in our case, I, at that point in my life, was pretty unapologetic. I just said, hey, I'm just airing this out right away. So it was the first date. She's dosing up for my burrito, which of course I told her how many carbs, but then she just, dialed it in. Everything was great. But on the flip side, thinking about maybe, you're just out in the dating world, you're in a new relationship. At what point do you have, the talk? And so in your case, obviously you dated people before me, but like in a situation like that, when would you have thought it might be appropriate for someone who's listening to this to say, hey, this is when I'm going to bring it up? Without, of course, you're not going to wear a sign that says, I have diabetes. Like that would be stupid. But when would you think it's appropriate?
I don't think there's a great answer, but I think sooner rather than later is definitely something I would come back to. I mean, working in healthcare, I'm, cool, whatever, good to know. So at least, I can pay attention and everything. I don't stalk Ben on, the Dexcom app or what's it called?
The Share.
The Share,
Oh, yeah.
whatever it is, I don't want to come across as micromanaging him or whatnot. But yeah, I think the earlier, the better, just so that person can, support you. Or if they don't support you, then you'll learn real quick. Yeah, exactly. That, as Ben said, he was in his unapologetic area, but that's, what we love about the man. So, I'd rather personally too, I would rather know sooner rather than later if somebody wasn't going to support me. So I would definitely say bringing it up sooner. And then you'll also see how they react to things that they may not be expecting. And, life is full of unexpected challenges. I'm sure anybody that's married knows that. So yeah, I think sooner rather than later is my final answer.
Well, and I think with it too, right? It's something where, yes, I was very much just like, here it is. This is what I do, whatever. I'm throwing it out there. But to Amelia's point, I would say, and I'm not going to put a number on it, but if you haven't expressed anything by probably the second or third time that you've hung out with someone, I'm not going to say again, like show up wearing a sandwich board sign that says, I have diabetes. But at the same time, having some sort of brief, you pull out your pump, you pull out your phone to dose and you leave the app open, something it can be discreet. It can be very straight up. If you truly have interest, because what you don't want to do is spend months and months on end with somebody and then they find out because you've hidden it the whole time. It's going to come out eventually. If the whole goal of being in a relationship with someone, assuming that's what you want to do is to get married, get engaged, all that stuff, it's going to show up. So it's a matter of, in my mind, getting it out there earlier. Anyone that's not worth your time is going to say, well, I don't want to deal with this so much. Thank you next, right? I think Ariana Grande, there you go. But that's how you have to kind of approach it, at least from my perspective, because there were times back in the day where I would hide it. And it wasn't necessarily romantically. It was just in general. And people would say, oh, why are you eating something different? And I'd be at a youth group thing and I'd be like, oh, I'm lactose intolerant as there's cheese all over my salad or whatever I was eating. And it didn't make any sense, but I was so concerned about what other people might think. You just have to own it because it's part of you. It's part of your life. And if you don't own it, and you end up getting involved with someone, they're probably going to be more disappointed that you didn't say something early on. But from a day to day, because obviously, gratefully you work in healthcare, it didn't really bother you. And I don't think it would have bothered you if you didn't work in healthcare. But how do you feel like it impacts our relationship? Like relative to other couples we know and just people in general, how do you feel like someone having diabetes impacts our relationship here?
That's a really interesting question. If you asked me that when we first started dating, I probably... Well, you were on the pump then, right?
Yeah, I mean, I've barely been off the pump, but yeah.
I probably would have referred to being a klutz because I think I pulled out 5 of his sites in
the first month.
It was a month? I was going to give myself 6 weeks.
It might have been a month and a half, but like.
I definitely pulled out at least like 5 or 6. I was pulling out like 1 a week.
Some true steel, like we're talking like steel cannulas, plastic can, doesn't matter. Rip.
And for those of you that know how hard it is to get a site sometimes, then, you can imagine how good old Ben felt over here.
With my well-documented site issues. Yeah, I was not having it, but it's okay. I like Amelia. Love her now.
Obviously. Love you too, Debay. But I guess just living with it, I feel like now it's just a part of our lives and I don't really think anything about it. But I think it would come down to like extra decisions too, which you have extra decisions as the person that has diabetes. Obviously, I don't have diabetes, but there's other things that like you'll think about. Like I don't like usually eat my breakfast until a lot later because I've gotten used to doing that because Ben does that because it's a lot easier.
Nothing to do with diabetes.
Yeah. When you go to, when you go to the gym to not have eaten a lot of food and then, having insulin on board and then you're trying to work out. That's related.
That part's related. I don't necessarily eat later because of that. I just work out earlier because it's easier in my schedule.
Oh, well, whatever. However, I've noticed that some of, my habits change, and it's not like it's a bad thing. It's just kind of in general, you start to kind of relate to more habits of your partner. And it's not that it's anything bad. I'd also say it gives you another opportunity and layer to be supportive. So I'm on Ben's Dexcom Share app. I don't micromanage it. I don't bug him. We make jokes about the people that are watching over you on the app thing. And that's obviously a personal preference. But, I am up earlier in the day. I'm the early riser of our relationship. Ben likes to sleep in. Ben likes to be up later. I like to get up earlier. So I have him on the Dexcom Share. And if I notice something's wild before I'm going to work at 6:15 and I know he's asleep, I'm obviously going to tell him. So I think it's good because it gives you the opportunity to be supportive of your person. And I wouldn't really say that it's a negative. It's just another thing. Everyone has something that they deal with every day. There's tens of thousands of chronic disease states that people deal with. I feel like diabetes is just another one of them, and it's not really anything special. I mean, it requires a little bit more work than some other ones, but it's nothing that I feel like really negatively impacts our relationship.
I mean, there's certainly times where things strike and it's less than ideal, right? For example, we were gone on a trip and I had 4 sites in a row that just did not work. The scary part about this is there were multiple trips that this has happened. And so it becomes, okay, my blood sugar just skyrocketed up. I need to change the site. I feel like garbage. And then Amelia, as a result of that, gets impacted by it because it's nothing that she did. It's nothing that she meant to do. But at the same time, it's something that happened. So I think that's something where the seemingly little things are going to be a challenge. But on the flip side, again, it doesn't have to impact your life and it doesn't have to impact everything, right? There's been times where my blood sugar's gone a little wonky. We've been at a sporting event, let's just say the Vikings because they're stressful and, that happens. But on the flip side, blood sugar goes up. We still enjoy the event. We still stay present. We still manage that knowing that, okay, there's a chance that when this is done or, while we're here, I'm going to make some adjustments. And Amelia just kind of mentally takes note of that saying, hey, if we need to adjust X, Y, or Z, if we need to stop at the bathroom, if we need to get extra water, this might be the reason why. So it's not steering the ship. It's kind of just there. And like Amelia said, it's another couple decisions that we have to make, more so I have to make, and then she's kind of there to support. But I'm really grateful that she has been very supportive and that she's, willing to step up if there's something that happens or if I'm feeling like garbage, if my sites, when they go bad, it usually doesn't go well for my number, just like anybody else. So knowing, hey, thank you so much for, having my back, getting the water, helping me grab whatever, new site so I can get it in a little quicker. But I feel like from a relationship standpoint, it's only going to impact you as much as you allow it to. And it's only going to take over as much as you allow it to. If you're obsessing about everything, oh my God, what about this and this decision and that? When we go out to dinner, I feel like it doesn't do it. Nothing changes.
No.
When we go out to dinner, how long would you say I spend, figuring out the dose? 90 seconds?
If that.
Right. And again, some of that comes with practice, but it doesn't really change the dynamic. It's more so, okay, we're at a social event with other people. I'm dosing. I need to make sure I'm paying attention, but that doesn't have to involve Amelia. If we're on a date night, okay, maybe we stop the conversation for a minute or two. I figure out my dosing. I take my insulin and we go back to conversing the way that we just were. So when have you noticed it impacting things, if at all?
I mean, you mentioned the couple bad sites that were obviously out of your control. I think another thing too that people may not realize initially is the planning ahead. So let's say you have a day off and you're going to, go do something for the day. Well, Ben obviously needs to know if hey, are we going to go have a chill activity day or are we going to go for a nice long walk? Are we going to go and do an activity that involves a lot of movement or not? Because, you don't want to eat let's say you go out for brunch or something and you have a crazy breakfast and then you're oh, I'm going to go, walk for, a couple miles and then there you go, so you obviously want to prevent anything like that. But I mean, you can plan for that and you can pay attention ahead of time and come up with a plan. So I think if anything, it's just made it so that we're more planners. And as a pharmacist, I feel like that's naturally what I do. And I'm naturally pretty detail oriented. So it's not like it's like anything where I'm like, oh my God, this is terrible. This is taking up so much time. I don't want to deal with this. Like, absolutely not, you know?
Well, and most of the things Amelia's referring to are decisions that ultimately come down to me. Like, I have to be the one that decides, okay, we're about to go walk for an hour and a half. What do I need to do? You know, to make sure if we're eating brunch right now or eating lunch or whatever, what do I need to do to make sure I don't go low? You know, oh, we're about to do X, Y, and Z. It's no different than the stuff I talk about on the podcast normally. The only difference is there's another person involved. So if something goes awry, like for example, not too long ago, we were in Toronto and we were walking around and we walked like a mile and a half to, what is it, Kensington Market.
Oh, yeah.
And then we got there and we walked for a long time. I had intentionally dosed a little less because we had gotten some food and we had done a leg day earlier in the day. So my insulin sensitivity was much higher. Well, we walked all the way to this Kensington Market, and despite my reduced dose, despite everything else, I was hovering right around like 70. And then of course it dropped. And so then what did we have to do? Well, we unfortunately or fortunately, however you looked at it, there was a place that I wanted to go to anyway called Wanda's Pie in the Sky. Shout out to Wanda. And we got some fire pie. And we were going to go there anyway. It just happened to be that we went there a little sooner because the diabetes said so. So ultimately, that kind of stuff is the stuff that can be a tweak. Now, the biggest thing, and I think this is the biggest thing for Amelia, other people may not have this experience, but I think the biggest shift for her, she doesn't normally bring a purse when she goes places. As we go out to date night, the purse is brought not for her, but it's brought to carry the extra diabetes stuff. So like the backup meter, it would have been the backup insulin pen, but I'm currently using a pen. So the insulin pen, etc. It's not because she needs to do it. And of course I could carry it if she doesn't bring it, but it makes it more convenient for me, which I can't say I'm mad about that.
Yeah.
Thanks to Bay.
I forgot about that. I just in general am the kind of person that doesn't like to carry a purse on me. Like if I had it my way, I would literally only hang on to my car keys and my phone. And yeah, I would say when we do go out to eat, I do tend to bring a purse to carry all the accessories.
And there's been times where, again, I'm grateful where Amelia can be a sounding board when I get real frustrated, if I've had site after site with problems and I'm just over it. There are times where, you know, I may vent or I may be frustrated and I'll let her know. And I'm grateful that she's willing to listen to that. And obviously there's only so much that you can do from a venting perspective and so much you can do from, hey, I'm the partner that doesn't have it, but I'm here to at least listen. So I'm grateful we have that dynamic. But again, diabetes can be as much of the relationship as you allow it to be or as little as you allow it to be. The key in my mind is not letting it be way too much, not letting it overtake everything where you got, you know, the partner making the decision, you're making the decision, you're butting heads about it. That starts to get too far. But then you also don't want it where the other person just doesn't frankly care, because that's just a sense of apathy also in the relationship. Where else is that going to lead to, right? What else is that going to seep into? So I feel like finding that healthy balance, talking about it relatively early to make sure that, hey, this is a good match, because if someone's awesome, but they don't like that part of you, that's part of you. Whether they like it or not, that is a part of you. If you're type 2, you know, maybe there's still hope where you might have the chance to reverse it, which is phenomenal. But on the flip side, you're type 1 in my case, it's part of me. It's here. It ain't going nowhere. So with that, I feel like this is a good little insight, little bit of a, you know, inner workings of my brain and our relationship, just so you can see as a person with diabetes, how much it can impact or how much it, you know, doesn't have to impact everything. I like to think we have a relatively normal relationship where we'll talk about the BDIS, but it's not like it's a daily conversation.
Yeah.
So
we got our little man here.
I'll say that we got good old Roscoe P, the diabetes alert dog, who decided like the first 5 minutes that he was just he hadn't eaten for like hours. He's like, I'm going to eat all of my food while you are on this, while you are recording this. I'm going to eat all my food and make a racket, because that's how I do things. Because it always is about Roscoe P, but he's a good little buddy. And I will say, I can do another episode with Amelia about how she effectively trained him. I was just kind of there. So we could do another episode about that. We did one way back in the day, but we can do an update if that's something that you would like. So with this, any final relationship wisdom for people living with diabetes or their significant others?
Nothing that I can think of, but I mean, if y'all have questions, definitely let us know. We're an open book. We'll answer them.
Yeah, we're an open book. You can find Amelia on the gram. You can find me, of course, on Instagram, TikTok, @ManOfZeal. If you're loving the podcast and you're getting something from it, definitely drop us a 5-star on Spotify, Apple, wherever you're listening. I appreciate you. We appreciate you. And with that, I will catch you in the next episode.
Hope you're ready for the next episode. Hey.